Yes, I am completely aware I look like a knockoff version of Where's Wally. Nothing I can do about that. First things first, if I haven't shaved and I'm wearing glasses, it means I'm having a bad day. Bad week, a bad month. It's been a rough time. More on that at the end. There is a video that I filmed quite ambitiously, which is a weekly vlog of me going to uni, doing my web design class, meal prep, going to the art gallery, a bunch of really fun stuff, more stuff than I usually do in a week, which is why I filmed it. But it's taking a very, very, very long time to edit, so in the meantime, enjoy this existential crisis video. So I will start at the beginning with high school. I was very depressed and I dropped out of year 10. And then I went back to a different school, continued there, and decided to go to the National Art School, or NAS, which is the most prestigious art school in Australia. And I got in, and I hated it. I hated it. I could make a whole video about that. I did make a video on my old channel, and basically the whole school is a mess. The people who lecture there are really good artists, but they are absolutely terrible teachers. None of them have any qualifications to teach anyone. They got into that position because they're well known. And that's kind of how the school carries itself. The structure of learning, I think, was really badly done. For those of you that don't know anything about how NAS structures its education system, its classes, you have 2 drawing classes, a general drawing and a life/objective drawing class. And you have a history class, and then you have whatever subject you're doing at that moment. First years, in the first semester, you do every subject, which is sculpture, printmaking, photography, painting. I think that's it. Anyway, you do 2 weeks of each subject, and it's 9 AM to 4 PM. My group, the Ochre group, was tasked with doing painting first. Let me tell you right now, I have never seen so many grown adults cry and have breakdowns in the span of 2 weeks. It was almost like being at Cal Arts. It was very rough, and one of the lecturers we had was an absolute piece of shit. The other, I wanted to adopt me. I loved her very much. One of my artworks got thrown out a window. It's a whole thing. Anyway, the structure of lessons was terrible. Some of the lecturers were terrible. There are lecturers who literally would show up drunk, or high, or both. Students who would do the same. So there were a lot of reasons I left, but mainly it was because I wanted to do animation. I also toured UNSW's art school, and I thought it was kind of shit. They tried to get me to join very badly. Like the tour guide was very desperate when he heard I was leaving NAS. But looking closer at what facilities they had and what the classes were like, I realized there was no support, and I probably would be left floundering, especially because they focus more on their Instagram famous artists and that kind of thing, and I was just like, this is not a good environment for me. So I didn't go there, but I almost did. And I left and didn't do animation. I went to Macquarie for a few weeks to do creative writing and psychology. And I ended up doing creative writing, computer programming, and astronomy. I don't know. But I did enjoy myself. I thought my lecturers... Oh, I did gender studies as well. Blocked that out because there was someone in high school who I met there and outed me in front of everybody, and that was fun. Also, my gender studies tutor was incredibly transphobic and fatphobic. She was like, my life is so much harder because I'm skinny, you don't understand. I was like, okay. Also, she would say men and people who identify as men and then look at me, and it was just a really weird atmosphere. It was shit. So then, that was a creative art degree, but I wasn't really doing creative art subjects. I was doing creative writing, and that was it. I took the rest of the year off and worked at an artist collective, and that didn't go too well. I'm glad I worked there, but it was not ideal. I applied to study disability education, and kind of along the way realized that I didn't want to do that, so I decided to try and switch quickly, to switch my application to apply for English and art teaching at the same university, and I got in. Immediately, I just knew there was something wrong. I had a lot of really negative experiences. There were lecturers who were letting other students, you know what, no, I'm gonna say it because like I don't care. There was a class that we were taking that was about helping students become independent, and one guy said that if his kids ever talked the way one of the examples were, he'd beat the shit out of them because he does that anyway with a belt. And people started laughing. And I can't remember what I said. It's recorded on the lecture, but it was something like, "That's disgusting. You've just admitted to being an abusive piece of shit. I'm out of here." And I got up and I left, and I talked to the lecturer afterwards. I'm like, "Look, please don't take my attendance away because I walked out halfway through the lecture, but you did nothing." And she was like, "I was just so shocked." A tutor I had for a separate class, basically, we were doing a unit specifically on disability inclusion and what to do if someone has ADHD, or there's an autistic kid, or you have any other student with any other kind of disability. Students with disabilities, by the way, do have assistants in the classroom. It is not all on the teacher, so do not for a second be like,
"Oh, but it's so hard to teach so many kids and to have disabled kids."
Legally, there are requirements for assistance for disabled students, so it's not all on the teacher. Teachers have a lot to do, but I'm done with the pity party. We were talking about how if you have to explain something to someone and they don't understand it, you can try explaining it a different way, and what you're doing is not actually taking away from the rest of the students by giving an extra moment to someone else to be able to learn something. You're actually helping the rest of the students keep in mind that thing you're trying to teach, and it might help them remember it even better. So you're not leaving behind the rest of your class to help someone else. And this one guy, who I hated from the moment we started class because he said his favourite movie was La La Land. That's a whole other thing. He said, "Oh, but what if they're retarded?" And everyone laughed, including the teacher. And I was just so shocked that I finally understood my lecturer from the last semester, who was like, "I was so shocked at that man, I couldn't say anything." I didn't say anything, and it was just like, that was the moment I was like, I don't know if this is right for me. I'm gonna keep going because I've dropped out too many times and I feel guilty. But it was just like, you're literally in the middle of a disability education unit and you decide to use that slur in front of someone who is disabled, who is autistic, who is retarded, and it was just too much. Anyway, that was alright, whatever, all that crap. I did well in the units. Then came the placement. The placements we were being given were at private schools, and at that time my enrollment said Miss Jessie Anderson, because I changed my name, but you couldn't change your gender at that time, whole thing. And I talked to the lecturer and I was like, "Look, I don't feel comfortable going to a private Christian school without them knowing that I'm trans. Can you find me a spot?" And she was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Look, and I'm also a carer." And they were basically really gross about it. They were like, "Oh, look, we'll find you what we can find you. Don't approach anyone. Take what you can get." And they put me halfway across they put me in the middle of the city at a very prestigious public school for rich kids. Like, I'm talking prestigious as in like the Lost and Found had a Fitbit in it. And in the morning assembly, an award was given to a kid for coming in second in a golf tournament. And it was a public school. That kind of vibe. So that was interesting. The worst part was the teacher I had, students hated her. She was very nitpicky, and just, you could tell that she hated her kids and that she didn't enjoy her job. It was very obvious that the environment was not going to be fun or interesting. I was tasked to teach a couple of art classes. It was fine. She said I wasn't really applying myself, and it was like, I'm here to do my experience. I'm not here to teach a class. I'm here to observe, I'm here to help out. The thing I hated was she would switch activities every 6 minutes, basically. Because they'd have 10 minutes for an activity, but it would take them 2 minutes to pack up and 2 minutes to get everything put away again, like to open everything up, to get all the packets out, and then to put everything away again, and you'd have like 6 minutes to do anything. A kid wouldn't know a word, and I'd be like, all right, let's get a dictionary, and the teacher would be like, no, we don't have time for that. It was just like, what are you doing then? The worst part was a student had a crush on me, and it was not obvious to me at first until one of my friends who was also at that school pointed it out and was like, you need to report that because it's a 7-year-old, I don't know how old she was, a 7-year-old girl who's coming after you, and if anything happens, you're going to be in trouble. And I was like, cool, let me go do that real quick. She was very persistent, kept asking me what high school I was going to teach at so she could go there, and it was just really uncomfortable. And I feel sorry for every teacher I ever had a crush on, because being in that position is
The worst.
Another quick side note about primary school teaching is that the kids who are at the particular school I was at, their parents decided to give them interesting names. Like, everyone was white except for this one Korean kid, bless him, who was getting bullied so much I wanted to punch everyone in the face. Because they were like, it's not racism, it's just ignorance. And I'm like, what do you think racism stems from? Like, they were calling him all sorts of names and no one was doing anything. They're like, it's just bullying. And it's like, no, it's racial abuse. No, very different. Calling someone ugly and calling someone a racial slur are very different things. So that was a whole other thing. Systems are difficult to navigate in. Let me just say that. That's what I realized. That every time I would try to fight for a student, I would get pushed by other teachers, and it was just, there's no way to win. It's like capitalism, but worse, because there's tiny children scurrying around everywhere. The kids who'd have their names spelled like Riley or Kylie or Jackie, and they would make fun of this one girl whose name was Neve, and her name was spelt like this, and it's like, but that's literally Gaelic. And she was so shocked that I knew how to spell her name, and she was so happy. And other kids would tease her because her name is spelt weird. I'm like, that's in another language. Your name is India, spelt like this. Grow up. Dealing with kids was not fun. And I knew I was going to teach high schoolers, but it was just, that was when I was like, I'm going to go talk to the head of art, and I'm going to ask if I can transfer to just Bachelor of Visual Art and Design. And I did, and she said, sure, as long as you promise to be an honest student. And I was like, yes, because I want to be a professor. I don't want to be a high school teacher anymore. And that's kind of where that ended. And because of coronavirus and everything, I've deferred. Also because of surgery. I'm glad with where I am right now. The lecturers I've had at ACU have been, except a couple, but they're no longer there. My main thing is that I don't want to have regrets when it's too late to change. And I am looking at primary school teachers that I was in the same vein for, like, you know, secondary education. And so many of the people who are doing high school teaching were like, this is too hard, and they would become primary school teachers. And that explains so much about what's wrong with our schooling system. You don't need a good mark to become a high school or primary school teacher. But it was just very disappointing to see people who were, for lack of a better way of explaining it, too stupid to teach high schoolers think,
oh, I'll just dabble in child psychology and mess up children for the rest of their lives. Let me just play with their formative years.
Because some of the people who switched over were genuinely really, really shitty people. People who thought corporal punishment should be brought back, who were really sexist, who thought that calling children stupid in front of the whole class would motivate them to be better people. Some of them stayed on to do high school teaching, so that was depressing. It was the whole, I can't change this system, and if I try to, I will lose my job and never be hired anywhere. Whereas being a professor is going to be a bit different, I hope. I don't know what I want. I know I love conceptual art, I love fine art, and I want to work within that vein, and I think teaching is going to be something that I really enjoy and am good at, but we'll see how that goes. Let's talk real quick about my suffering. At the beginning of the year, literally on New Year's, I got tonsillitis, and that was a bitch, and I had not recovered properly, like at all. I kept having a scratchy throat because I need to have my tonsils removed, but I just never did. It did not go well, and a couple of days ago I our boiler stopped working. It always stops working because of the rain, and I got sick again. And I'm just eternally suffering. PMDD is driving me up the wall, and part of my dysphoria made me try and ignore it because it's like, that's a woman's problem. Don't talk about it. It's a women's disease. And it's not. If you have a uterus, if you have ovaries, you can have PCOS and PMDD. Just trans people don't talk about it because it's uncomfortable. Women aren't taken seriously for it, so why would trans people be? Things are slowly getting better. I'm trying to find that sweet spot between pushing myself and resting, because sometimes I'm just like, alright, with this video that I'm trying to edit, it's so many clips, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and it's just like, wait, should I have a break because I'm tired, because I'm sick and I need to rest, or should I just push through because I'm avoiding it because it's a lot of work? Which is it? I don't know. I'm going to be, hopefully, uploading about once a week, because I feel like an upload schedule, despite what I said last time, is actually going to be helpful. I'm thinking Fridays, that way I can have the whole week and then not have to do work on the weekends for this. And I've got a little book that my brother got me. It's a little ice cream notebook, and he said that it reminded me of him. I was like, why? He's like, because you always give me ice cream. I was like, checks out. And that's where I'm writing my little video ideas and my little thumbnail ideas that go together. My next video, because it's definitely not going to be that vlog, my next video is going to be called The Worst Advice to Give an Artist, or something like that. And the thumbnail is going to be something that's just like, just be yourself. And it's going to apply both to art and to like existing as a person. So I don't know how I'm going to write that up. I might do notes. I can't do scripts. They just, you should hear the last video I did. I was scripted at the beginning. I forget how to talk English. Anyway, thank you for watching. I don't know how to end these, so I will see you next time. No, you will see me next time. That sounds very ominous. Okay, goodbye. Why should I worry? Why should I care?